This video, I'm going to give you a blueprint. If you're the person that is struggling to find himself because you feel like you've kind of lost yourself in your career, or whilst building a legacy, and you feel like it's affecting your household, I'm going to give you a blueprint I use to regain everything I've lost back. Okay, so my name is Macdo, and I'm a relationship and leadership consultant. I help men recalibrate, rebuild, and reframe themselves so that they're able to show up authentically under pressure. And again, a lot of the insights are based on influence, psychology, most importantly, again, a healthy sales background. I was part of some of the top companies in the UK in terms of state agency, branch management, and running, again, branches at a high level at a very young age. And you leverage that experience in helping corporates, governments, and whatnot. So quite simply, this is the work I do. And I'll be so honest with you, the one thing that I wish I knew at that point in time is that isn't the end, it's the beginning of a beautiful journey. All right. So a bit more about my story. So I remember going through a difficult time, and where just like most men, I felt like, I put that pressure on myself to deliver on the promises that the few people that were kind to me in this world made. Okay. So 2 of my uncles around the same time got sick, and I didn't know at the time that it was a pretty much deadly situation. So I thought I had a bit more time to spare. So whilst I was building what I was building, I thought I got enough time to look out for them, until I received the bad news. And once I received the bad news, I was in a positive financial position, but because of the fact that I wasn't prepared to take action and do what I thought I could do, I didn't expect them to die, and that's the thing about grief. It comes when you least expect it. It doesn't come with an announcement, hey, by the way, this is when it's gonna happen. You just, as it happens, you just watch it unfold, and you just watch yourself evolve or react to the situation. So as this thing was going on, I was questioning my role in the whole thing, right? Because like most men, I've placed this pressure on myself to be able to look out for the people that look out for me. Okay. This is after betrayal, distrust, manipulation. So my heart was very hell-bent on holding on to the few people that looked out for me, because I already knew what it was like to see the ugly side to life, right? So here I am saying, no, I must do this. I need to do it. But I didn't realize what was going on internally, because I wasn't aware. This was when I was just 18, 19. And I remember trying to put things together, and then just rashly just saying, oh, do you know what? I know there's a normal thought process today, but not today. Let's just do it. Let's see what happens. Hopefully we get lucky, and then take things from there. It went the opposite. I remember there was one day in particular where I lost 12,406, and it almost like it didn't feel real. It's like it went as quickly as it came, and there was this effect in me that was like, I remember it's almost like I was thirsty, but I was drinking, and my lips were going dry, my chest was tightened, and all I could think of is, this has to get better. There's no way it's gonna get any worse than this. And it does. I lost everything I earned, and I had £400 left. And I looked at myself and I said, I've gone from this guy who quit his job, told his boss, listen, I'm gonna be a millionaire by the end of the year, to this guy with no savings in his parents' bedroom, questioning everything he's doing. And my mom, I call her my mom. My mom wasn't aware of the situation, and I wasn't gonna tell her, because I think we got this thing as children where we don't want to kind of tell our parents our financial position. We just want them to be okay, but we just don't have that relationship with regards to opening up about those things. Well, that's my case personally. And I remember her questioning, what am I doing? Like, what's this guy doing? Go get a job or something. I don't even know why you quit in the first place. What she knew was that I was going on dates or getting some flashy shoes here and there. And when she asked me for the shoe price, I would just say whatever the price was minus a zero. So I'd say if it was 500, I'd say 50. And as I now sort of dove deeper and deeper, I started to realize what a lot of men also face when they go through these type of losses that push them into the rock bottom. You didn't know who you was, you just knew who you wanted to prove you were. So you wanted to prove you were a provider, but who are you when you don't provide? Some of us wanted to prove we were winners, but who are you when you don't win? And every single time you look at the opposite of that not being achieved, well, it leads you to one outcome. You're a loser, you're useless, and you're worthless to the people you care about. And I remember sitting there questioning how useful was I to the people I love the most when they need me the most. And the answer is not much. And I blame myself. I was in this guilt space. And I remember at the time with the person I was with, I just went numb. I wasn't present. I was gone, right? I couldn't perform as the boyfriend that she needed at the time. And so many men go into that space where when they lose themselves, nothing else matters. I'm a loser anyway. What's the point? Why are you still here? Like, leave. And every single time I failed or things didn't go to plan, I saw that ghost creeping up again. I'm worthless anyway, so you're free to go. I don't even blame you for this. Without saying too much, I've said that to my wife as we speak sometimes. She just ignored it. She said, I'm here. And despite that, I knew that I had to deal with this demon by myself. This useless demon, which puts us in this position and tells us, if you don't provide, you're useless. Well, that's a lie. Because you're not only here because you provide. And as much as this is going to be dependent on the people you care about, what you need to understand is that there's a little child inside of you that has an assignment that he wants to accomplish. And you're the steward of that. And I remember sitting in this spot, and I wish I had the blueprint I'm going to share with you today, but I didn't. Things went south. I broke up, more like I was numb anyway, and she left. And I felt indifferent about it. And that's how I knew how much that impacted me. The last 400 pounds I had, I made 2,000 within the week. I thought I was back on. I thought things were going to go back to normal. And I lost it by the end of that week. So the trading day opens on Sunday. I lost it. And I remember sitting in my bed after going for a walk, trying to clear my head, with my coat on. And I'm this OCD guy. I'm very attentive of what I allow in my bed space. Why? Just how I was raised, and most importantly, I feel like you should be very cautious of the germ and stuff like that. I'm just, again, spots in your face and all these other things that all come from that. So the problem is, there wasn't a path for me. This isn't a hero story, right? The blueprint came 10 years after getting it wrong and wrong over and over again. And the blueprint was understanding, number one, that you are not your losses. You are not your victories. You are not your feelings. You are not your thoughts. Right? So what are you? Because the question is, who are you really though? Like, genuinely ask yourself that. Right? Your name, it was given by your parents. Your experiences were formed based on the environment you grew up in and the people you had access to. So who are you really? Who does God know you as? And when you start to ask yourself those deep-rooted questions, you start to realize that you can't be anything. Because you're not really nothing in the first place. That detachment from ego that starts to show you who you truly are. And when I understood that, and I understood that I was a steward of the story that I was in charge of telling, I then realized that all I had to do was stand for my story and stand for the experiences I lived in. But most importantly, protect the person that's telling those stories. The narrator, that little inner child that saw all these things happen. When I dove deep into understanding the process, what I realized is that who I was the person observing all these things happen. But the moment you forget that, you allow the circumstance to decide what emotion should be attributed to the thing you're feeling. So in other words, because something that you expected to happen positively doesn't happen according to plan, guess what happens? Suffering. Suffering comes in and it says, hey, let's reverse engineer this. This person doesn't know who he is anyway. So in other words, in my book, I go exactly into helping you understand how to counteract that immediately. Because instead of letting the world tell you who you are, you tell the world who you are in the first place. You're a child of God. That's factual, right? If you're not a Christian, you're a child of Allah, or whatever you want to call it. You are, however, coming from something or someone that is eternal. Why? Energy, for instance, can't be destroyed. Right? Research it. This isn't maths. Biology, you can't destroy energy. It's either transferred or recycled in some way, shape, or form. So once you understand these things, you start to realize that the things you're holding on to are not really things you should be holding on to. And that's the reason why mainstream media doesn't want you to know this. Because imagine everyone now started to figure out that they're not really anyone. They just are. And that's how the military, by the way, brainwashes people into being able to do some of the terrible things they've been able to do for their country. The interesting bit is how... Oh, hello there. The interesting bit is how I was able to utilize this blueprint to save my recent relationship with my wife. I wouldn't even say it was save, it's more like establish it. Because not too long after we got together, I lost and I had to start my business venture because my career went south, right? And when it went south, I was left with a difficult position in terms of, all right, cool, this is where I'm at, this is who I am, and I'm okay with it. So the decision I made was quite simple. I realized that now that I understand who I am, or I understand how much of not really a say I have over things, I can just solely focus on just being who I believe I need to be. And in that, I don't need to compete with anyone. I don't need to compare myself to anyone. I just need to be comfortable with what I am called to do in a way that aligns with who I want to be. Okay? So the reason why now this is coming helpful for you is because once you understand your identity, you can now lead the behavior that leads the identity based on the meaning you're giving to the story you're sharing. For instance, in the right context, your behavior will play a significant or specific role. Hello. It's quite simple. Identity, behavior, and pattern. Okay, what pattern are you going to establish, or what standards are you going to set? So the pattern or behavior now that I understand that I'm the observer and I don't have to be attached to the outcome, that also means that I can choose what outcome I want to get from this. Why? Because the outcome doesn't define my identity anymore. I understand one thing: as long as I know I'm God's child and I know that my story is for me to own, the next thing I now need to understand is what behavior do I want to display. And if the behavior doesn't align with the outcome I want to achieve, so in other words, what I've started to do, what I do with the clients I work with, is we now place the anchor based on the future perception you want to achieve, right? So that basically means, in other words, this is the identity I want to achieve, and this is how, not necessarily how, but this is what that looks like. So I am this billionaire, okay? So I am this billionaire, for instance, okay? And as this billionaire, this is how I behave, okay? And what sort of behaviors do I exert? I'm excellent at delivering tasks. I'm very diligent. I'm very disciplined. I'm also very straightforward, and I'm very unbothered in regards to the outcome that doesn't necessarily align with the values I have, okay? So you almost cut the fat based on the outcome you want to achieve, based on the perception that this is what this person would behave as. So you reverse engineer it. And then at number 3, the pattern or the standard you establish is now based on you, like I said, telling the world who you are before anybody else tells you. And that is the blueprint I have now seen has been effective in different areas of my life, but especially in my marriage and business interactions and working with high net worth individuals. That ability to shift yourself from, okay, this is who I am, this is where I'm going, and this is what I need to cut out, has been able to save me in terms of saying no to the right people, and most importantly, standing up for the things I believe in. Now, if you want this done for you specifically, DM me Blueprint on Instagram and we can book a call that will change your life, okay? Now, I need you to understand that this took me 10 years, but it took others 5 minutes, or sometimes 15 minutes. And sometimes it was an hour session, and sometimes it was a 12-week session for a full transformation. It does depend on the person I'm speaking to and the amount of work they've done already. Now, what I'll say is this: the blueprint to save your marriage starts by understanding who is the person showing up and what are they observing. Because if you're observing anger, you're going to be focused on anger. If you're observing peace or joy or wealth, you're going to be focused on peace, wealth, and joy. So if you're now in your marriage, for instance, right, you're focusing on, all right, cool, this person always does things in the wrong way. I'll give you an example. Some of my affirmations in the morning are based on me saying to myself, my wife is going to lead nations. So I'm not just speaking to my wife, I'm speaking to the person God has assigned me to that will lead the generations to come. So I'm not just seeing her as my butler like some of these red pill guys see their wives as. No, I'm seeing her as a woman who is influential, who's going to help millions of people, who's going to nurture so many lives and pour into so many lives. And on top of that, she's the daughter of this little one, right? So once you start to focus on how you view things, it's going to be easier for you to adjust the behavior according to how you're viewing things, because what you view will now describe what you see. I'm going to say this again: what you view will describe what you see. Now, if this is being of value to you, if you want to understand exactly how to show up or losing yourself financially, you don't know how to regain control, I need you to understand that the recalibrate, rebuild, and reframe system will save your life, okay? And the reason I'm saying this is because it saved mine. It was able to get rid of the grief, the guilt I was dealing with. Most importantly, it was able to allow me to show up authentically despite the results. And I'm not saying you shouldn't aim for the results, but I am saying that you should detach yourself from your identity being affected by the results. And that is the biggest shift the blueprint does for you. I'm not here to tell you that it's not going to not feel great, but what you need to stop doing is allowing how you feel to consume who you are. And that's where a lot of people get it wrong, okay? A lot of people allow how they feel to consume who they are. And if you're that person, this video was for you, and I really hope that in explaining how you can observe without being consumed by what you're seeing or feeling, you can now start to see how sometimes even like deep breathing or really just allowing yourself to zoom out and focus on the outcome you want to achieve can generally get you into a much better space in terms of thinking straight, most importantly not making mistakes that you're later on going to regret because you never gave yourself the time and opportunity to process what you're currently experiencing. I'm not here to tell you that it's going to be easy or it's going to be like a piss in the park. No, it will be tough, but as long as you have the right tools, you're going to be able to fight right through it effectively. And that is the key. That is the sole purpose of the blueprint. I'm not here to solve or get rid of your problem completely, because that would be me selling you a fallacy. What I am providing is the ability for you to process it authentically without losing yourself. Because I know that if I hadn't lost myself, I probably wouldn't have lost the amount of money I lost. I would have parked it up because I'm not going to allow guilt to consume my identity. All right? That's a lot of stand. If you want to know about guilt, more about guilt, I made a video where I describe how guilt is ruining people's leadership. Now that video will change everything you need to know on this. I really hope this video has helped you, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.